Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
You are listening to the financialsurvivalnetwork.com. I'm Kerry Lutz on 1230 WBZT, and it's time for another Triple Lutz Report. This is episode 304. The date is September 19th, 2013. The meddling federal government is never far away. The feds, get this, they're readying movie theater regulations for blind and deaf patrons. Look, I'm all in favor of blind and deaf patrons having access to all of life's amenities. I'm just not in favor of the federal government shoving it down everybody's throat. And this is no doubt going to turn into a sue fest, an orgy for lawyers to sue movie theaters, especially small, rural, and small independent movie theaters who don't immediately comply with these regulations. So listen up. The Obama administration, their proposal is going to require movie theaters to offer technology so that blind and deaf people can go to the cinema. Sounds pretty benign. The draft rule, part of a decades-long effort by advocates for people with disabilities, and it's going to require thousands of movie theaters across the country to offer devices that display closed captioning and provide audio narration of what's happening on screen. And disability associations say that the new regulation will make sure that blind and deaf people can appreciate the latest blockbuster just like everyone else. Now, my feeling is let the market satisfy this need. Okay? Charge them extra, or maybe the movie theaters can get kudos, can get good PR just by providing it. The technology is certainly there. We need it. It just reminds me of that old Saturday Night Live skit where Garrick Morris would do closed captioning, and for the deaf, he would basically little picture of him in the corner of the screen, and he'd be screaming out basically narrating and screaming out whatever Jane Curtin or Dan Aykroyd was saying. It was so PC incorrect. You got to believe that they couldn't get away with it today. And here's the problem. Theater owners worry that a federal mandate is going to force small, rural, and struggling theaters to close given the costs associated with the rule. And this is realistic. Movie theaters, as we know, have been closing up for decades. The little corner movie theater that you and I used to go to back in the 50s, the 60s, 50s a little too far back for me, but in the 60s, used to walk after school or on weekends in the middle of town. That movie theater is gone, and these theaters can barely stay in existence and often need community support just to break even. And this is what the trade group wrote in a comment to the Justice Department in 2010, objecting to the upcoming proposal and to require them to install expensive closed captioning technology at this time is an undue financial burden, and it's going to result in theater closures. And there's no question about it, but let's face it, this administration, the people calling the shots now, are morons. They've never had to make a payroll, most of them, never had to sign a paycheck, never had to worry about paying taxes, about complying with governmental mandates and regulations. I mean, this is the type of thing that business people have to worry about. This is the problem. This is why the economy is stuck in the mud, among other reasons. There's plenty of others, but the regulatory burden, the tax burden, this is why the economy isn't going anyplace. And this guy, Eric Bridges, says all of this comes down to choice for us. He's the Director of External Relations and Policies at the American Council of the Blind. We would like to have a choice in the movies that we go to see that are video described. And look, Eric, I understand that, but what you're doing is you're eliminating the choice for the rest of the population that isn't afflicted by these horrible disabilities, and we feel for you. But the fact is that a lot of these people with these disabilities now have the ability to have this technology at home and are able to watch these movies. So the choice becomes a rural theater or a struggling theater now shuts down, so the rest of us lose our choice because they don't have the financial resources to offer the choice to the blind and the deaf. And that basically is the choice that the Justice Department is shoving down the rest of our throats. And that, dear listener, is wrong. You know it and I know it. And the fact is that the Justice Department doesn't care. They're blind to this. And it's this type of incompetence. How many jobs are going to be lost because of this? How many people, how many of you are going to lose your jobs because of this knee-jerk equalization of outcome that's going on here? The National Association of the Deaf believes strongly that all deaf and hard of hearing people should have equal access to all services in society available to everyone else. That's what Howard Rosenblum says, the association's chief executive, in an email to The Hill. It would be akin to only requiring that 50% of buses should have segregation for people of color, and the other 50% of buses should be integrated. And no, this is just not true. It's different. He says they believe that providing equal services is a civil rights matter that should apply to all theaters and not just a fraction. And this is the problem here. It's not a civil rights matter, okay? What about the civil rights of the business to stay in business? The fact that a lot of these companies will be put out of business, does that matter? The National Association of Theater Owners has reported that about half of the movie screens in the country offer the technology already, okay? They can afford to. So presumably the other half of the theaters either don't have the funds to offer it or the demand isn't there. And the trade group, this association, has opposed the upcoming rule. They say that if anything, requiring the services for people with sight and hearing loss at 25% of the screens in movie theaters should be enough. Plus, they say that theaters are likely to provide whatever services will help them draw in more customers. Makes total sense, exactly what I've been saying. And setting a stringent regulatory requirement only punishes the few theaters that really can't afford the technology that's in question. But of course, the disability associations say that those voluntary standards leave blind and deaf people with few options if they want to go to the movies. Now look, I'll tell you that there are apps available for the iPhone and for the Android that can solve a lot of these problems. Let the free market solve this problem. We don't need the heavy hand of Eric Holder and Barack Obama to solve this problem. The technology is out there. Siri can do it, okay? I guarantee you, you throw this problem over to the geniuses at Apple and Google, they will solve the problem without any intervention of the government. It's already being done. We don't need the government to solve this problem. And I just don't get where the government needs to intervene and solve this problem. And these disability associations have to have a little bit of understanding that when the government intervenes, they're going to be theaters that simply can't comply. Just like with safety regulations with vehicles, there are auto companies that weren't able to comply and that went out of business, all right? Long time ago, companies you don't even remember the names of. They're gone now. But the fact is that the more regulations that are imposed, the more government mandates that are imposed, the less competition we're going to have. You see this in the drug business. Maybe the large chains of theaters want this because they'll have less competition and more people will have to travel longer distance to go to these large chains. And maybe that's what they're looking for. I understand and I really do feel for these people who have these disabilities, but perhaps the solution again is technology, mobile technology. Look, you got this application called Shazam. You play a song, it recognizes the artist and the title of the song, and then it tells you where you can buy it. So obviously the audio recognition technology exists, and it's simple to create closed captioning. The other aspect is for blind people, the movie houses could easily introduce an app that blind people could subscribe to, and there must be a means of synchronizing it with the movie picture, and you could go in and download the movie picture. Maybe it could be done through Flickster or another app, and you could get a running commentary of the action on the screen through your iPhone, through your Android phone, and actually not miss any action that's going on the screen. So up next, we've got lots of things to talk about. We've got this burger outlet that claims that they're going to pay their entry-level workers $15 an hour. This is Kerry Lutz doing a Triple Lutz report on the financialsurvivalnetwork.com, 1230 WBZT. Hi, it's Kerry Lutz. I recently decided to move my retirement account into physical precious metals to hedge against the coming times. If you want to move an existing retirement account into physical precious metals that you can hold in your hand, tax-free, there's no company that can do it more quickly and efficiently than Regal Assets. It took them just 24 hours to open my new IRA account, and all I had to do was fill out one simple form. The best part is that Regal Assets does all the work for you. They cover the setup and administrative costs for 2013. If you're interested in making the same move I did, call 855-678-6620, 855-678-6620. That's 855-678-6620, or visit them at regalassets.com. You'll be glad you did, and tell them Kerry sent you. We are back. I'm Kerry Lutz. This is Triple Lutz Report, episode 304. We're talking about fast food restaurant workers. So there's a burger joint called Moo Cluck Moo. And, you've been hearing that workers are striking. They want to get a living wage at McDonald's and Burger King. They want to get $15 an hour. So here's some rich, guilty people. It's a local burger joint outside of Detroit, and starting on October 1st, all new employees are going to get paid $15 an hour. It's obviously an upscale burger joint. They didn't say how much they charge for a burger there. I guarantee you they don't charge $5 or $6. It's probably a $15 or $20 burger. So Moo Cluck Moo is currently paying its entry-level employees $12 an hour, which is far above the state's minimum wage of $7.40 an hour. Now they're going to go to $15 an hour. The owner there, Brian Parker, a.k.a. Moo Cluck Moo, said, "We always wanted to be at $15 an hour. It just feels like the human thing to do. It's not an easy job to do. We've got a line out the door of the people that are working for us. We don't have anybody who's disgruntled. I guess for $15 an hour, even if you hate what you're doing, flipping a burger, go for it." And Moo Cluck Moo claims that paying higher wages results in better customer service and more skilled employees and less turnover and money saved from having to hire and train new workers. Forbes called the $15 an hour minimum wage an absurd notion. I mean, look, we've talked about this before. In Europe, where you can't fire people, where wages are higher, minimum wages are higher, the thing that's been happening is they're just getting rid of the order input people, and people are inputting their own orders at McDonald's, just like you see in Home Depot. They're getting rid of cashiers. I saw it in CVS the other day. You're now checking out yourself. You're now paying, they've got these automated terminals. You scan your stuff, you pay for it. There's one person watching. This is a reaction to Obamacare, mandated health insurance for your employees. They're just getting rid of employees, investing in capital. There's a machine now that will bang out 360 burgers an hour, if you could believe it. Far more than any human, I think, can do. And it can do it cheaper. It doesn't take coffee breaks. It doesn't get sick. It doesn't go out on strike. It doesn't bitch about how bad management is and how much little money they're getting paid, all that stuff. And this is the trend. I mean, you'll see it in agricultural employment as well, because the more the wages go up, the more it becomes viable to invest in capital and get automated solutions instead of having employees. I mean, employees to a company are a cost center, and it's a cost to be controlled. I've been there myself. We're always looking at ways to make our employees more productive, i.e., bring down costs. That's what it's about. And as long as you're in business, you're always looking to lower your labor costs. And with Obamacare coming and all that good stuff, this is the trend. So there was an armed EPA raid in Alaska, and this brought to light the fact that there are 70 federal agencies with armed divisions. We talked about this recently, the Warrior Cop, and there was an uproar over these armed EPA agents descending on a tiny Alaska mining town, and 40 federal agencies, including nearly a dozen typically not associated with law enforcement, have armed divisions, and the agencies employ about 120,000 full-time officers authorized to carry guns and make arrests, according to a June 2012 Justice Department report. And, most Americans know about agents with the DEA, Bureau of Prisons, but you wouldn't think of the Library of Congress having agents. We talked about the Federal Reserve Board. They've got their own veritable little army. You go down to Liberty Plaza, there is a battalion of armed guys, and they've got the latest state-of-the-art weaponry. I mean, you don't want to try to get to the gold, even though they did in some movie, try to blast the vault open. Ain't ever going to happen. I mean, you will be blown away before you even get near that vault. Forget about it. But it's interesting. The EPA, whose armed agents in full body armor participated, acknowledged taking part in the Alaska Environmental Crimes Task Force investigation, because they were looking into possible violations of the Clean Water Act. So, yeah, definitely get out those fully automatic M4s and let's go out there and raid and scare the hell out of people. And, of course, they don't want to talk about this, but this is what we're coming down to here. And you've got to hold these people accountable. And you can't allow these agents to swarm over you like ants, wearing body armor and jackets saying police and packing guns. And, they're going after a gold miner. So maybe these guys accidentally poured some crap into the water. And maybe they deliberately did it. but we don't need a SWAT team going after guys who are just doing a little bit of gold mining, who pose no other threat to society. And the other agencies that are participating in this operation were Fish and Wildlife. Okay, so they're controlling wildlife, and you got guys out there drunk with guns. You can understand why Fish and Wildlife would need guns. Land Management too, Coast Guard obviously, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, I don't think they need guns. Park Service, yeah. So Fish and Wildlife, Bureau of Land Management, Park Service are among 24 agencies employing more than 250 full-time armed officers with arrest authority. That you can understand. This report is based on a census and federal law enforcement report from 2008. The other 16 agencies that have less than 250 officers include the NOAA, that's the National Atmospheric and whatever Administration, the Library of Congress, well, they do have a lot of valuable stuff there. Federal Reserve, they got trillions of dollars worth of gold there, and Nicolas Cage is trying to break in there, so you need that. The National Institute of Health, they got some buildings, they got superbugs and stuff, and the number of federal departments with armed personnel climbs to 73 when adding in the 33 offices of Inspector General and government watchdogs and agencies as large as the Postal Service. You know, they've got the Postal Police, we know that. The government printing office needs cops. They have an Inspector General with 5 full-time officers. Why are they still printing stuff at the government printing offices? Don't they know that everything has gone digital? So the EPA has defended its use of armed officers after the Alaska incident. Say environmental law enforcement, like other forms of law enforcement, always involves potential for physical, even armed confrontation. Come on, you guys. You were raiding a damn gold mine. That is garbage. And the Alaska's governor, Sean Parnell, has really gone after them. He's ordered an investigation saying this level of intrusion and intimidation of Alaskans is absolutely unacceptable. And the Alaska's senators have also jumped on the bandwagon for this. And, this is what they're doing. Just the other day when I was driving back from Florida, I'm using this app called WAZE, W-A-Z-E. Works on the iPhone, works on most Android devices, but not all. It doesn't work on the Note for some reason. Don't ask me why, but it does work on the Galaxy S4. And says there's a cop ahead. And the cop is escorting one of these mine-resistant vehicles, which is basically like a mini tank, down 95. So it's just another example of arming up of law enforcement. So it's happening all over the place, and EPA guards have been accused of intimidating behavior in the past. A North Carolina resident named Larry Keller was visited by armed EPA agents after sending an email to Al Armendariz, the regional administrator, who was videotaped saying his enforcement strategy was to crucify executives from big oil and gas companies, and they visited him. This is going on all over the place. Got to rein in the government. Limited government's the only way you can do it. Otherwise, we're headed for a collision course with our rulers. They're no longer leaders. They're no longer government employees. They're our rulers. And that's the problem here. So we'll come back later today with some more Triple Lutz gems like these. Just keep your eye on gold and silver. Yesterday was a huge day. I know Don Harrelson thinks that gold and silver are still headed for the veritable crapper. I'm not convinced. I don't know the future direction. I don't believe there's going to be tapering. It all comes down to, is the Fed going to still inflate? Right? I don't believe there are any hawks on the Federal Reserve. I don't see where they can just pull the plug and stop printing money and stop buying securities. If I'm wrong, please somebody explain it to me. I'd like to understand it. I just don't see this as an option. If you do and you can explain it to me, please do. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't pretend to be the world's greatest intellect. I'm not. Most of my knowledge I get from people that are a lot smarter than me. And believe me, there's tons of them out there. I am not a world-class intellect. Don't claim to be by any stretch. I'm just a guy who watches stuff and tries to pick up trends and tries to learn. If you got any questions, call me. I should say, write me an email. Don't call me because I usually don't answer my phone anyway because all the ringers are shut off because I'm doing the show. Can't afford to have the thing ringing when I'm doing the show. KL@kerrylutz.com. Also, thank you to the people at tonks.org/liberty, okay? Because on the drive down back from New York, I'd filled up a couple of thermoses full of Tonks. And that's the only thing that kept me awake going down here. The coffee's delicious. You really got to try it if you haven't. Tonks.org/liberty. You get a free sample. It's freshly grown, freshly roasted coffee. It's shipped out to you within 24 hours of being roasted. It's really the meaning of fresh coffee. You never had coffee this fresh before, whether it's at that fancy $5 a cup cafe around the corner, and you know that I go to it a lot, or whether it's at a restaurant or the supermarket. You don't get coffee this fresh any place else but Tonks. Tonks.org/liberty. Get a free sample. You got nothing to lose but that sour, bitter aftertaste that you get from so many different coffees that you taste, and you know what I'm talking about. Tonks.org/liberty. It's Kerry Lutz. Been another Triple Lutz report, signing off. Jason Hartman has helped thousands of people realize their dreams of financial independence through real estate investing. And now he's got an unbeatable offer for you. He's offering you his proven course that thousands have used to build an income property empire, and it's free to the first 100 Financial Survival Network listeners. Just go to jasonhartman.com/Lutz and sign up today. For cash flow and capital appreciation, there's nothing else like it. Make your money work as hard as you do by building an income property empire. Real estate is America's proven investment. Go to jasonhartman.com/Lutz and get your free course today. That's Jason, HARTMAN.com/Lutz. Thousands have paid nearly $300 for this course, but for this short period of time, you can get it free.
The Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.